Tonight's talk, some of you guys read the blog post that we sent out with the newsletter. I'm gonna expound on that, but it is this thing that I've been talking about a little bit in class about the Super Bowl. And every time I ask who watched the Super Bowl, I get like 1 or 2 people raise their hands. So I'm gonna try it again. Who watched the Super Bowl? Yeah, 2.5. I watched the Super Bowl. I know Catherine didn't watch the Super Bowl. I don't like football in New Zealand.
It's the second half.
So, this was a phenomenal game, and you guys need to watch the highlights if you didn't see it. It's one of the most exciting things ever. Like, so, and even if you don't watch football, and even if you know nothing about it, it was very, very intense. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about the game itself, which doesn't really have much on the face to do with meditation and martial arts, but there are some principles at play that really do. And the game was so like, it was like 2 different games you're watching. The first 3 quarters really were all the Atlanta Falcons just crushing New England, and it was like they were up 28-3 by the end of the 3rd quarter, and nobody watching gave the Patriots a chance. And I was hoping the Patriots would win because Tom Brady went to the same college as me, and I honestly think that it's good for, because I don't really watch pro football that much. I like watching college football because I went to the University of Michigan, which usually has a good football team. No? Oh, that's okay. Not everyone's perfect. So I like watching Tom Brady play because he went to Michigan, and I think like, well, maybe we'll get better like recruiting this year because Tom Brady wins his 5th Super Bowl. But even if you didn't care about who won the game, it was very exciting because after being crushed for the first 3 quarters, the Patriots started coming back, and it was at the very end of the 3rd quarter, and again, everyone watching is thinking, there's no way that they're coming back from this game. I mean, I don't know of a bigger deficit that's ever happened. I don't know if you guys are watching know of one, but it's like pretty steep as far as the Super Bowl goes, especially. And they got a touchdown at the end of the 3rd quarter, and that's when the momentum started changing. And go into the 4th quarter, and it was just like touchdown, field goal, touchdown, and just like all these unanswered points by New England. And it was really like watching 2 different teams in 2 different games. Like they were playing okay, but just getting really stuffed the first half, and then just like unstoppable. And it was in the first part of the game, Atlanta was unstoppable, and there was all this momentum in their favor. And then the momentum switched, and it was all for New England, and it was all in their favor, and they were unstoppable. I mean, they could not get stopped, and they came all the way back and tied the game. It took a bunch of crazy plays, like one of the most insane catches ever in the history of football. There's one of the receivers getting covered by 3 defenders. One of the defenders gets the ball, and he it runs into the guy's hands, and it bounces off the defender's hands in the air, and somehow the receiver on offense is like getting to the ball around 3 defenders, and he ends up catching it between the legs of one of the defenders, and it's like an inch off the ground, and he like is bobbling it, and he catches it. And everybody that saw that play, I think, just like lost it. And it was stuff like that. It was like magic watching this. Again, I don't care that much about football, but so they're tied up, and they go into the first ever overtime in Super Bowl history, and they just march right down the field and score a touchdown and win the game. And the main principle that I want to talk about is this idea of momentum, because momentum is a fact of life in the universe. It is a principle, it is a force, and you cannot ignore it. You can try to ignore it, but it is going to have an effect. And so in our practice, momentum has a huge effect, of course. If you look at it on the very small moment-to-moment level, you can be practicing and let's say that you're facing the mirror and you're throwing combinations in Kihon, and I'm counting, and you mess up one of the combinations, you mess up a count, and then it's in your head. And then you're supposed to be moving on to the next count, but in your head you're thinking, I messed up the last one, so then you mess up the next one. And then you're like, wait a minute, I'm lost. And like, I see this, everybody in some class is having an experience something like this. At some point or another. At some point or another, you have like a really rough experience like this where you will just feel completely lost and like, I don't know where is up and where is down, which hand is my right hand again. You guys are like facing the wrong direction. I have to come and like turn you around. And it's because we get in our heads, this momentum starts taking us down in this direction. It's because we're attached to the previous moment. We're attached to the previous 5 minutes of class, or even to the previous 5 seconds of class. And so then we start having this story in our heads that says, well, I'm sucking now, and this is the way that this is going, and it's not good, and it's getting worse, and it's all about attachment, right? And then you can also have momentum going the other way. Let's say that you're sparring with somebody. You're in an advanced class or an advanced student, and you're just like, you're on fire tonight, and you're moving, and it's like they can't touch you. You're moving out of the way of everything they throw at you. Your distance is perfect. Every time you throw a strike, it lands, and it feels right. Like, it feels like this is the way that it's supposed to be. Like, where's Dana White? I want to be trying out for the UFC right now. Like, this is the best I've ever been. And this is the nature of it, right? Sometimes you're down here and the momentum's taking you down, and sometimes you're up here and the momentum is taking you up, and it is palpable. You can feel it, and it is undeniable. And that's just like on a very small level. If you zoom back out, you can see this on a bigger scale. Let's say that you're in the habit of practicing 3 times a week. And you have been doing this for a year. I mean, that is some serious momentum. And you're gonna keep going that way. You're feeling great about practice in general. Maybe you come in one day and you're feeling kind of crappy, but overall you've got it. Like, this is going in the right direction. And then let's say that you miss a class 1 week, and then you come back the next week and you're strong, and then the next week you miss 2 classes. Sometimes that's all it takes. And then you start thinking to yourself, I feel kind of like out of shape now. I missed 2 classes. I wonder what it's going to be like when I go back. I'm probably going to suck. Sifu's going to look at me funny, like, where have I been? This is going to be bad. And you get up in your head, and sometimes that's literally the last time that you come to class, because you're all in here like thinking about how much you're going to suck when you come back. And I've actually had people just go like that, where they were sick for 2 days, and that was it. And it's incredible how momentum can swiftly change for the better or for the worse. And so momentum is undeniable. Momentum is something that will catch you up or will drag you down. And so to ignore it is foolish. To pretend it doesn't exist is foolish. Instead, what you want to try to do is use it. And you can use momentum in your favor. And the way that you're going to do this is by being present. So if we go back to the Super Bowl and we can imagine in Tom Brady's head, this is the greatest quarterback of all time now, like undeniably, they're going 3 quarters into this game, getting crushed. They're losing so badly, it's an impossible comeback. And I promise you, at some point in the game, the thought entered his head, we're not going to win this game. We're getting crushed. And as soon as that thought entered his head, he thought, no, we're going to win this game. And he kept going back to that line of thinking, and so did all the other players on the Patriots, or at least most of them, enough for it to work. Because as soon as you allow yourself to get caught up in that kind of thinking, it is actually over, and they would not have been able to come back. It would have been impossible. I've experienced this in martial arts all the time, but the example that I use when I talk about it is golf, because golf is highly, highly mental, almost as much as martial arts. But for me, I've got so much time spent practicing martial arts that I know that I'm just having a great time no matter what's going on. I mean, I could be getting, tapped and punched in the face, and it's still so fun. I'm laughing the whole time. But golf can be very, very unenjoyable. And it is very clear to see this. Like, if you, and I apologize for all the sports analogies for those of you guys who don't play golf or watch football, but you tee off, you drive, and your drive was either good or bad. And that starts off the hole. And then you're walking over to your ball and you're thinking, well, if you duffed your first shot into the woods or out of bounds, you're already thinking like, well, this hole is gone. Like, I might as well just not even try anymore. I'm just giving up on this hole. Or you can think to yourself, well, that shot was in the past. Now here is the present. This is my chance for this shot. And it's not that bad after the first one. Like, you can kind of come back from that without too much, but then you duff your second shot. Now you're thinking, oh, this hole is the worst hole. I don't know, they must have cut the grass differently today. Like, the sun is in my eyes or something is terrible happening here. And then you're thinking, this hole is definitely shot. There's no way I'm coming back from this. But then you can say, all right, I'm going to try. I'm going to be in the moment. I'm going to make this shot. That's it. And then if you duff that shot, you just I see people just crack their club over their knee, chuck it in the woods, just drive the golf cart up to the next hole. I'm done. But if you imagine what a professional golfer does, they can have long ruts where they're just not playing that well, but always in their minds they are ready in the next shot to be totally in the moment. Because if you refuse to allow yourself to be attached to the past of this hole and the past of this game, you can in this moment make an incredible shot. And maybe you're still going to score terribly this hole or this day, this game. But all that really matters is this shot in this moment. And so I got to imagine that was what was going on in the heads of all of the players on the Patriots. They're just thinking, all right, this play, this is the play. This is the play where it's going to happen, where we're going to turn this around. And eventually it just started happening. So what it really comes down to is being present, being in the moment. Because if you're attached to what's been going on, and again, you're telling that story to yourself, you are going to keep going in that direction. But there's this really interesting phenomenon, and I wrote about this in the blog and the newsletter as well. You guys see the movie Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, where they have to travel back in time to save humpback whales and bring them back because there's this alien cylinder that's gonna kill all of planet Earth, I guess, because the humpback whales went extinct and the humpback whales need to talk to the aliens. This is an insane plot now that I'm explaining it. It's a good movie, you should watch it. But you don't actually need to know any of that. What you need to know is there's this scene early on in the movie where they're planning on traveling back in time in order to pick up these whales. And the way that they do this is by slingshotting around the sun to use the gravity of the sun to pick up momentum and get enough speed to travel back in time, because that's how time travel works. And it's like this concept of the J curve. So the J curve is like, you see me do this all the time in class, right? Well, the J is this, where you're heading down and you're heading into the dip, and that at some point the momentum starts to change, and you go like this, and you can actually slingshot back up. This is what happened in the game. The Patriots were way down, and they ended up coming back and scoring more points, more unanswered points than they had scored against them. That's how they won the game. They literally just like were going down and it was bad, and then they hit the J curve, they came back up, slungshot themselves into even, I don't know, better football, like scored more points. This can happen. And it, again, comes down to being in the moment, being aware, and being able to get yourself back out of this. But you have to kind of have the attitude that says, this is going to be a J curve. This is going, like, I'm going this way and I'm going to use this momentum to bounce back. And it's like if you are an alcoholic and you're heading into rock bottom, and it's like you get to this place and there is nowhere to go but up, right? And you bounce back, and you can actually use like the idea of gravity, if it helps you. These principles that exist in the universe, in physics and gravity, they apply in some ways to the way that our minds work and the way that attitudes and lives work. These universal principles, and they hold true in practice as well. It's the same way. We do this in push hands. I always, I'll do push hands in Tai Chi, and I'll let somebody really think that they're going to get me, and they start to push me, and they really commit to that push. They start leaning into it, and I just out of the way, and I take that push and just push it right back at them, and they fly out, and they're like, oh, what happened? It's because you overcommitted, and you got yourself, you allowed me to use that energy. And this is, I mean, there's not much that much more to say about this, I guess, except for if you are in the moment and you're aware of this, and you're aware of the possibility that at any time when things seem like they're headed down this direction, that you can flip it and come back up and come back even stronger, then this is going to affect everything in life, especially practice, meditation. I will admit that there have been times in my meditation practice where the meditations are not great. And sometimes it's like all I can do to get myself to sit, because it's like I'm thinking about, the last few meditations have just been rough. I couldn't sit still. I mean, I could sit still, but my mind couldn't be still. It was just, I was uncomfortable. It was bad. I felt like I wasn't really meditating the whole time. And then I can see myself going in this direction. And then I think back to the last time this happened, the last 10 times this happened. And I recognize that all it takes is, let's just like speed up into this curve and come back out the other side. And so then I'm like, no, forget that. I'm sitting for 2 hours solid, and it's going to be the best meditation that I've ever had. And sometimes it actually is. Sometimes I'll come back from that terrible string of meditations, and it's just like, this one is it. And it especially seems so great because the last ones were so crappy. And you can even do it in the moment. I have this experience probably tonight where you're sitting and you're trying to meditate and you are just thinking, you just have these thoughts, and then you'll recognize that. And you'll say to yourself, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be meditating. I've just been thinking. I've just been sitting here in my head. And then you'll be at this level and you'll just sink down into it. And it's that moment where your consciousness drops into this solid, it's like you're up above, like on the surface of the water, splashing around, and it's violent. And anybody watching you like splashing around like this thinks this person's about to drown. And then you just say, nope. And then you just take a deep breath and just dive straight down underwater. And it is completely still there. So this is possible. And it doesn't happen by itself. It really happens when you are aware of it and you consciously make the decision to bounce back, to change the momentum. In the moment, or on a grander scale. And you have to recognize that nobody is coming to save you. Nobody else is going to do this to you or for you. I mean, I'll try and other people will try, but at the end of the day, it has to be you. And the more you get used to it, the more you're able to recognize that this is the situation I'm in and this is how I'm going to get out of it, the better you're going to get out of it. The better you will get at it. And the more quickly, the more easily, and the more fully it'll happen. So let's start tonight. We're going to practice. As you sit totally still, ideally, you are just in a rock solid meditation the whole time and you're just focusing on the breath and your mind is not wandering. And let's be honest, that's probably not going to happen. So when you recognize it, don't wait until meditation is over, because there is no coming back out of it at that point. You want to recognize it immediately and just allow yourself to, it almost is like the other way if you're thinking about meditation, but allow yourself to just sink down deeper into consciousness, deeper than you have been before. And it's going to take many, many times, but allow yourself to sink even deeper. Sit comfortably.